Thank you, Mr. Horn. You've stated repeatedly that the contracting officer made the decision that the lease was in compliance with the emoluments clause and with all necessary legal things, correct?
I said that the contracting officer made the determination that the tenant was in full compliance
Fine.
with the terms and conditions of the lease.
And this was based, in part at least, on a written opinion on written advice from legal counsel.
I don't know if it was written advice. I know that there were multiple meetings where multiple GSA lawyers participated in conversations about the proposed new ownership structure.
Mr. Horn, GSA has told us it was written advice. So someone in your operation knows that it's written advice and has told us that. So my question is, we get a copy of that written advice?
We're committed to working with the committee.
I didn't ask that. I said, can we get a copy of that written advice? I'm requesting that right now.
We're committed to working with the committee.
Can you give me a yes or no question? On my request and the request of the ranking member, I assume, will you give us a copy of that written advice, assuming it exists?
We will provide all materials associated with this project when requested by the committee.
By which you mean by the committee chairman?
Yes.
Or his staff? So in other words, the answer is no. You will not give it to us unless the committee chairman requests it, because you're ignoring the minority party.
We're complying with the
You're complying with the order to ignore
policy.
the minority party. And Mr. Chairman, rather Mr. Horn, our staff has learned that Mr. Kushner has held discussions regarding candidates for the permanent administrator position. We've also learned he's been engaged in selecting the FASTA board. How is this activity consistent with his recusal from Old Post Office matters, considering the OPO lease is one of the highest profile matters in GSA's portfolio?
I'm not aware of Mr. Kushner's role at the White House.
Okay, let me rephrase the question. Assuming he has that role, that he is involved in screening or interviewing candidates for the permanent administrator position, would this be a violation of his recusal?
I'm not going to speculate.
I'm not asking for speculation. I'm saying, if that is true, would this be?
I'm not going to comment on hypotheticals.
Okay. Now, you said in answer to a question before that you didn't get monthly statements, you only got annual statements.
I said that I'm not aware of monthly statements. I am aware that there's a requirement for an annual report that will decide what the profit sharing arrangement will be. If there are monthly reports, I have not seen them.
You're not aware of
which is consistent with my approach to this entire project. That is the contracting officer's job.
You're not aware of a requirement for monthly statement that would give the same information as the you just mentioned?
Correct.
Okay. Section 5.3 of the lease requires that monthly statement. Shall I read the whole thing to you?
Sure.
Well, I'm going to read only part of it because it's lengthy. Tenant will furnish landlord on and before the 45th day after the end of each calendar month the following items accompanied by a certificate of the chief financial officer of tenant certifying such items are true, et cetera, et cetera. Monthly and year-to-date statements of income and expenses on an accrual basis, et cetera, et cetera. I can give you the rest of it.
Okay.
This requires the monthly statement that you said you didn't know existed. So my question is, what will you do to make sure, A, that the monthly statement is being filed, and then to answer the questions you've received from members of the committee regarding that regarding information that would appear in that monthly statement?
So I'll go back, work with the leadership of the Public Building Service to make sure that monthly statements as required by the lease are being received from the tenant. And once again, we're committed to providing information about this project to the committee.
And are you committed to making those monthly statements available to members of the committee?
We're committed to, we're committed to responding to requests from the committee for information.
Okay, so once again, you're saying the answer is no unless the Republican leadership of the committee wants it. And as long as a cover-up is being continued, we're not going to see that information. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying that we will comply with the administration's policy and the
okay, and the administration's policy is that, as you've acknowledged it, is that minority members of the committee are entitled to no information, and therefore they can continue the cover-up. I yield back. I thank you.
Thank you.